Final chance for the Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema to be wooing voters this afternoon. We've also been crossing to and fro to the ANC KZN rally, which is taking place in Johannesburg, and we'll continue to give you election coverage of other political stories and rallies taking place today. But joining us in studio still this morning is our political analyst. He is with us, Michael O'Donovan. We thank you very much for your time this morning. Just getting back into it and hearing what the voters are expecting this morning. Do we think that specifically the EFF's manifesto has actually spoken to it in terms of the voter support that we've seen come out this morning?
The EFF is very good at speaking to the issues that resonate with people. And so the question then changes. How plausible are the solutions that they present? So on the one hand, you have this resonance about jobs, particularly jobs for young people, land, and a change in the regime. The question then about the plausibility of their programs is a bit dicier. So for one thing, they want to create jobs by nationalizing institutions, nationalizing businesses. At the same time, our nationalized institutions in South Africa are the state-owned enterprises. South African Airways, Eskom, etc. They're not exactly the type of business that are growing, that are creating jobs. So the big thing unsaid here at the moment is how plausible is nationalization as a way of growing the economy. And on the face of it, it doesn't look like a very viable strategy.
Now, in terms, in terms of the protests that have marred somewhat these elections and the build-up to it in various parts of the country, how do we think this is actually going to be affecting the outcomes of these elections, specifically in the small and key metros like Soweto, like the Alexandra protests, and like the other metros as we see in Tshwane?
In past years, the end of summer has always seen a spurt in protest. The onset of winter, the colder climate, whatever the reason, May, June has seen a spike in protests. And if you are going to protest now, it would actually be nonsensical not to link it to the election. So the protesters actually have additional leverage at this time of the year. But to a large extent, they're squandering their leverage. They're using their vote as a stamp of approval for the way things are governed. And the threat is, we will not vote. We will withdraw that stamp of approval. They could have doubled the impact by saying, we are going to vote for somebody else. And that would have a far, far bigger impact on the ruling parties. Because they will say, right, not only are you going to withdraw, but your vote, your support is going elsewhere, and the competition increases. So we really need to mature more as a democracy, where we say, right, let's use our votes expediently. Let's use them to leverage and get the things that we find important.
Sure, I'm going to ask you to just hold it there. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal is holding its own provincial KZN rally in Pietermaritzburg. The gathering will be addressed by former ANC President Jacob Zuma today, and our reporter Ayanda Mhlongo is there to give us some of those details. A very good morning to Ayanda. Do we know why the ANC KZN rally is running simultaneously with the official final ANC rally that is currently taking place in Johannesburg in Ellis Park as we speak?
Good morning to you and good morning to our viewers at home. Yes, well, the ANC here in KwaZulu-Natal deciding to hold its own KZN rally as it wraps up its campaign ahead of the election on Wednesday. The ANC saying that it was mostly rather in terms of logistics and getting people financially and getting people from the province to make their way to the main rally, which will be held in Johannesburg, saying that they wanted to hold this KZN rally here in the province for those people that would not be able to go to Johannesburg. They've campaigned here in KwaZulu-Natal, and so for them, they felt that it was important that they held their own rally here and wrap up their campaign. Also, of course, choosing Pietermaritzburg, an area that has been rather problematic, particularly for the ANC, with internal squabbles as well. And at some point, some members of the ANC in this region had even said that due to the ongoing challenges that they were not going to vote. So the ANC has been able to, according to its leaders, speak to those members. And so they specifically also chose this region to show that they've been able to sort out the divisions and the challenges that they faced. And this region is now an example to others that the ANC here in KwaZulu-Natal is united and that it is going to be able to get the votes that it has set out to get. Of course, Shante, the other question is that of the former President Jacob Zuma, who will be attending this rally. Initially, we were told that he was going to be delivering the address, but it is going to be now the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, Sihle Zikalala. The former president would likely just give a few words to the masses that are going to be gathered here, but this speech that will be delivered here is going to be delivered by Sihle Zikalala. It will be interesting, of course, to hear what the former president is going to say when he shares his few words of encouragement to the people who will be gathered out here and to the supporters of the ANC and voters. Shante, the former president, during his campaign, in fact, this week, has defended his right to campaign with the ANC. There was questions to him about criticism that he initially faced, saying that some people had said that he was going to hurt the ANC's campaign because of the ongoing cloud around him with allegations of corruption. And he said that he has not yet been found guilty. And when we speak about State Capital Commission, there's nothing that has linked him to it. And he's waiting for people who have evidence to bring that evidence forth. And he says he has every right to campaign. He has every right to go out and campaign for the ANC. And him coming here today is nothing out of the ordinary. He has chosen to be part of his province, and that is why he's going to be today here today, part of this ANC's Siyanqoba rally. But as I said, Shante, it will be interesting. We are going to be covering it. Very interesting to find out what the former president is going to be saying today.
Now, Ayanda, just before we cross back to studio, of course, now you have said that President or former President Jacob Zuma will not be addressing the ANC Siyanqoba rally in KZN. However, it will be addressed by Sihle Zikalala. Do we have any time indication of when exactly he'll be speaking? Because we know that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa in Johannesburg is also set to be speaking, in the next half an hour or so.
I couldn't hear your question, Shante, but I heard you speak about time, I think, if I hear you correctly. The rally is supposed to start at around 11 o'clock. The former president is likely just to give his message of support and his message to the supporters that are going to gather out here today before the main address, which will be delivered by the chairperson, Sihle Zikalala. But he is going to be given those moments for him to share his message to the ANC one last time, urging the members of the public, urging the members of the ANC to come out in their numbers to vote for the party. But as I said, the main address that will follow him possibly is then going to be Sihle Zikalala.
In terms of the province, it is notorious for political killings. To what degree are leaders actually emphasizing the importance of tolerance amongst voters, specifically now into just being days away from the elections?
Shante, that's a very important question you raised there. And in fact, in just this last week, there's been two leaders that have been killed. One of an ANC Youth League leader, as well as an IFP councillor this past week. And so, while in the last weeks, the situation had relatively normalized in terms of these killings, but these last two have once again heightened concerns with the political parties, more especially with the ANC, which has suffered the most exposed in terms of its leaders being killed. The message from the ANC leaders throughout their campaigns, in fact, when the Secretary General of the ANC was here, Ace Makashule, he also emphasized the issue of tolerance when he was doing his door-to-door campaign, urging people of KwaZulu-Natal, urging members of the ANC to remain tolerant, and that is one message that is going to be quite strong here today. They are very much concerned. In fact, law enforcement agencies, as you know, Ashante, that KwaZulu-Natal has been identified as one of the provinces that is a hotspot. So there are areas that have been identified. In fact, even additional law enforcement agencies are going to be deployed to those areas following recent incidents of intolerance and fighting between political parties. So that is going to be a really important message that is going to be delivered by the ANC today around the tolerance and peace ahead of this election.
Let's hold it at least for now. Ayana Mplongo for SABC News down in Pietermaritzburg. We are being told that a former president of the ANC and the country, Jacob Zuma, is set to address the crowd in what is being known as the ANC KZN Siyanqoba rally, more or less the same time as ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to address the rally taking place in Johannesburg in Gauteng. We will continue to give you updates on that. I'm going to bring Michael O'Donovan, political analyst, joining us here in studio just to chat about that just a little bit. Is that not unprecedented to have a former president addressing the crowds more or less, the same time that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is also said to be addressing the crowds and supporters here in Johannesburg?
Yes, it is, but it's actually very astute on part of the ANC. One of the legacies of former President Zuma was turning KwaZulu-Natal from a hotly contested province between IFP and ANC into one where the ANC is totally dominant. So former President Zuma brought the KwaZulu-Natal under the banner of the ANC. Now, President Ramaphosa now has to present himself as the new face of the ANC, asked for a second chance, but still keep the support of the people in KwaZulu-Natal. So by having these things at the same time, people in KwaZulu-Natal can be focused on the traditional leadership, that particular heritage in KwaZulu-Natal, while President Ramaphosa speaks to the country at large, saying, I'm something new, I'm the new dawn, I'm doing something different. So as with all politicians, how do you get your cake and eat it?
How to get your cake and eat it. Well, speaking of IFP, let's go to our reporter on the ground, Simpiwe Makanya. He is taking us through the IFP rally, which is currently being hosted in the northern part of KZN for the election coverage of that rally there this morning. A very good morning to you, Simpiwe. How are things gearing up this morning?
Well, thank you very much. We're still coming to you live from Ulundi Stadium. This is where the IFP will be doing its final work in terms of trying to convince the electorate. Behind me, as you can see, the stadium is almost, you could say it's almost half full, because you can see there are still spaces here, but quite a number of party supporters have made their way into the stadium already. We're expecting proceedings to get underway here just after 1 o'clock today. With me, I'm going to speak to the IFP spokesperson, Mr. Mkhuleko Hlengwa, to hear how the campaign has gone so far. Mr. Hlengwa, thank you very much for your time, sir. 2 days before the elections, how has the campaign been?
Well, it's been a grueling and taxing campaign, but one which has been very fruitful and positive, as we have successfully interacted with South Africans at all walks of life. More so because our process of interaction and engagement began well before the campaign had actually started. But what is very clear is that South Africans are tired of the prevailing situation, and the shortcomings of the current government are a hallmark of failure. And so we are really, as the IFP, calling for South Africans to on the 8th of May liberate themselves anew as we embark on a new journey for economic growth, economic development, job creation, fight corruption, and build national cohesion, social cohesion, unity and diversity. So IFP manifesto, anchored in our track record of service delivery, where we have governed and where we currently govern, are the clearest indication yet that the IFP is the only party best suited to actually sort us out of the current mess that we are in.
Okay, Mr. Hlengwa, let me ask you this question, because you will understand that most of the people who are actually going to be voting this time around, the majority of them are young people. In terms of the party's representation in the National Assembly, it's yourself as well as Lizelle van der Merwe. Are you not concerned that the IFP is not doing enough to put young people in those positions where they are able to represent the party, where they are able to convince young people to actually vote for the IFP?
Well, I mean, there's Lizzo, there's Mkhuleko, there's Xolani Ngwezi, the deputy president is a middle age, and so on. We are a small caucus, very diverse. But what is important is that if you look at the party list currently now, you will realize in the top 5 of the national list, 3 of the people in the top 5 are below the age of 40. You look at our regional list, you look at our provincial list, from every angle, from every dimension, youth representation is there. Our youngest candidate on our list is about 25. And so we are pretty confident that we've got a functional generational mix. We have got young people who are equal to the task of taking on the IFP leadership, IFP baton. And credit must be given to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who has made it a point to groom young leaders, to groom new leaders, to make sure that the sustainability of the party is there. And it would be very short-sighted to an extent to want to criticize the IFP on youth representation, when in this country the youngest member of parliament in history, yours truly speaking, was only 24 when he went to parliament. So we have consistently prioritized young people. You go to our municipal councils currently, you find a huge section of young councillors. We even have the Young Councillors Forum. So wherever that we have got representatives, the young people are represented, generational mix, and we'll continue to build on that and create more spaces for them.
When are you going to hold your elective conference?
Well, I mean, the issue of the elective conference is not an election issue. I don't know why we keep on harping on it. We are focusing on elections. We have presented a credible election plan. We have presented a practical and pragmatic manifesto for our country. We indicated in January that we're having a conference in July. So post the elections, we will have we'll discuss the conference. Can we all focus on these all crucial elections? We are dealing with 10 million unemployed South Africans. We're dealing with high levels of poverty. We've become an international laughing stock. You look at even Time magazine featuring us on the front page of that prestigious global magazine as the most unequal society in the world. But those are the issues that we should be fighting.
But how do you plan on addressing those very issues you are talking about?
Well, we have to focus on an economy that is growing and developmental, focus on education, a healthcare system which is responsive and accessible, because if we've got people who can't access healthcare, they're not productive at work. So from whatever angle you look at the IFP manifesto, it's geared towards addressing inequality, creating jobs, and working with the private sector and creating a conducive and enabling environment for businesses to operate. So we have got the plan. And what is fundamental is that those that created this mess, that have been in government for the past 25 years, are not in a position to tell us and give us something new now in 2019 that they could have and should have done the past 25 years. 94, 99, 2004, 2009, 2014, and in 2019, the ANC is still promising us the same things that they promised us all those years, and they failed to do. The ANC has failed, and the options before South Africans on the 8th of May are twofold. Either we continue on the trajectory of failure, or we take a new direction, the IFP direction of inclusive growth, economic justice, national and social cohesion, jobs for all, a functional education system, access to healthcare, a healthy working relationship between the government, employers, employees, to actually create the growth in this country. And because we are not a party of sound bites, not a party of populist rhetoric, which we have seen, we're not going to tell people lies. I mean, one of the cautions we want to give is the proponents of the so-called expropriation without compensation are the biggest liars to date. They have not told South Africans that this is actually nationalization of land, where the ownership of the land is going going to go to the state and not the people. The ANC and its outfits and its friends do not have a solution for land for people, but they've got a solution for land for themselves, because what they want to do, they've looted farms, they've looted banks to buy farms. Italy is a point in case. So we need to have an honest discussion even about those issues of land and interrogate these manifestos which are anchored in lies and populism. So as we approach these elections now of 2019 on the 8th of May, it is abundantly clear that the only people best suited to solve the South African problem is the IFP.
Mr. Klango, thank you very much for it.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There was the IFP's spokesperson, Mr. Mkhuleko Hlengwa, saying their main focus at the moment is ensuring that they get as many people as possible to believe in their message that they are willing to change the country, to change the situation around in terms of fighting corruption, in terms of addressing the issue of education, saying that at the moment they don't want to focus on the party issues as to when they will actually hold their elective conference, because we do know that the conference has been postponed quite a number of times. It's back to in Johannesburg for now.
Our reporter on the ground first, Simpiwe Makanya, taking us through the IFP rally, or at least the build-up to. They will continue to give you election coverage of political party rallies that are taking place across the country this morning. Or more than 700,000